What's up?
Hey,
Corey.
I'm Kelly.
And it's another beautiful day. I've been thinking about, you can call it what you want. I call it personal revelation. You can call it enlightenment, spiritual growth, whatever. But it's amazing how revelation in my life, how it comes to me kind of out of nowhere. You know, a lot of people will be like, oh, I just had this feeling to do something, and then whatever happened, and it's a miracle, you know. Inspiration, for me, most of the time it's happened during meditation and prayer, and I'll just have a feeling, and it's amazing. If I follow through with that feeling, it's like things happen with the universe that it's like, how is that a coincidence? How did that happen? How is it possible that I had this feeling to do something and then this miracle occurred, or whatever you want to call it? But it's happened in my life so many times that it's almost laughable now. Me and my dad have talked about it, and it's really just funny how many times I've been in the middle of prayer or meditation, and immediately, and I mean like immediately, in the middle of the prayer or right after the prayer, this answer to an exact question will just come out of nowhere, whether through a text, a call, something just falling in my lap. It's happened to me throughout my life. And it's amazing how it occurs, how it takes place. And there's no explanation for it other than the word miracle, and call it whatever you want. I watched a podcast this week, and it was a history that I knew nothing about. A lot of people that have studied the LDS Church know a lot about the history of black people within the church and certain guidelines that were accepted and not accepted. And it was very interesting to look when the church, so we believe in following the laws of the land. It's just one of the 13 articles of faith that we embrace. And I always thought, and I still do, I think that there was a lot of hate against the Mormon community in like Nauvoo, Illinois in the early 1800s. And there was what is it called? From the Governor Boggs. It was called the Mormon Extermination Order, where if there was a Mormon, a member of the church in the state, you could kill them legally and you would not be charged for it. And I always thought, how crazy, like just because this group of people had different beliefs, they would get driven out. They were such an odd people because they were one with, at that time, the way that they treated their slaves was not normal. There was slavery. There were people that were slaves. There were slaves that got baptized into the church that believed the things that they were seeing, that they could be with their family forever, and that they could be reunited with the family that they were taken from. And the faith of these people is just amazing to me. And it's a history that I never knew. So I always believed the history was, well, the Mormons got driven out because everybody hated them just because of their beliefs. But there's a whole new twist to it that I'm seeing, where Joseph Smith and a lot of the early members, they would sit down and eat, and they would play and have a good time with slaves, which was completely unacceptable at that time. And people have such a hard time looking at history and embracing it for what it is. One of the most beautiful, I never knew this story, but the first pioneer that crossed from the east all the way to Salt Lake was a black slave. He was the first pioneer with this white guy and 5 slaves, and they were the first to actually go to far west and start the trek. Not all the way to Salt Lake alone, although this same black man was in the cart with Brigham Young when they arrived in the Salt Lake Valley. And that's just a history I never knew, stuff that was never talked about. There were never monuments made for the black community of all the sacrifice that they made to make it to Salt Lake. And just a couple years ago, they made the monuments because there was a black member that's like, look, we got to look at history for what it is. You know, one of the earliest 80s, which is really high, 70s, which is really high up in the church, in the organization of the church, one of the very first 70s of the church was a black priesthood holder. And once they got to Salt Lake, they became a state of the United States. And again, black people didn't have rights. They were still slaves. And things were put into place that were just, it's like, how could God do that? God didn't do that. Joseph Smith from the very beginning said equality to all men. And black people were baptized into the church, free or slave. The gospel of Jesus Christ is for everyone, and it says it. It is for everyone. And it's just a history that is beautiful, that I never knew, that is sad, because there were things that happened that you look at and you say, wow, ouch. You know, members of the church that still had deep racist indoctrination because they were humans growing up in the 1800s. And it's like, how do I look back and judge these white people for what they were raised in? How do I look back? But I can look back at history with compassion and love and say, we need to look at this for what it is and embrace it for what it is. Because if black people can do it, and they can say, this is how we were treated, but I still know that Jesus Christ is my Savior, and I still know that I've got the gospel, and none of it matters. What an awesome way for me to grow my testimony. For this black man to sit in front of the camera and say, this is what happened to my ancestors. The guy's name was Green Flake. Flake was the slave owner. Green was the slave. And it's like, wow. This man can sit there and know his history and still say, I know what I know because I have had personal revelation. I've had inspiration, and I don't care. I do care, and I want to make a change, and things are not acceptable, but I know what I know through personal revelation, and what happened to my ancestors is not going to change what I have personally received in my heart to be true. So I learned a bit about my own history that is, I could just like not look at it, tuck it away and say, oh, that's painful. The way that people were treated is painful. But according to the laws of man, certain things have to be done so that they don't kill off the entire Church of Jesus Christ, which has been done in the past. They would have been completely exterminated, as it was called in Missouri, as it was called in Missouri. The literal extermination order, which wasn't removed until like 30 years ago. Just a loophole in the law. But I love personal revelation.
So do I. So that was a podcast. I know you sent it to me, but so it was a podcast on YouTube.
It was
that
a
you can watch.
podcast. This guy woke up and had all these crazy dreams, and he said, I need to make a movie. And everybody's telling him, well, it's going to take a couple years. And he said, no, we're going to do it by December. And this was October of the same year.
Oh, wow.
And the movie was made. So you can watch the documentary, LDS Grammy Winner, Black Man, and watch the podcast. And the name of the movie is also on YouTube, called Black Pioneer. And it's the story of Green Flake.
If I can figure it out, I can link it in our bio thing. If I can figure out how to do that.
It was so awesome.
Yeah, I'm gonna watch it. It sounds like it. I just love personal revelation because, you know, I mean, we're just constantly growing and learning and expanding, and it's like the more we receive and the more that we seek, and that's the thing about it, is like we have to be seeking it, you know, we have to want it and be open to receiving it, because if we're closed off and we're constantly distracted and we're constantly listening to stuff and just constant clutter in our minds, we're not open to receiving personal revelation. I mean, it can come, like it has all throughout my life, even though I've been distracted. I mean, we do get little pings, you know, and we'll get moments driving down the road, or, you know, things that people will share with us. But in order to like truly have like flowing revelation and just understanding, and I mean, I hear people in the world call it downloads, like they're getting these downloads into their mind that just like totally, it's not yourself, because it's not knowledge that you have or that you've ever learned, but it's just coming from outside of you, and it just expands our understanding of things. Yesterday I was in conversation with a friend, and she has she lived in an ashram, like in a Hindu ashram, and she learned about that for like 10 years, and she was committed to it and immersed in it and everything. And so she was sharing with me a lot of Hindu beliefs and about reincarnation, because Corey and we did a video about reincarnation, and it's just been on my mind a lot lately, just like, why do people have that belief, and what is that all about? And I've been reading a lot of our own personal, like our own church history of what people had said about it, because I know that has been you know, discussed. And so I'm just like, I want to know, I want to learn, I want to have an understanding, and if there's something about that, like I want God to help me to have an understanding, if there is any type of truth in it, or if not, you know. I want to know that for myself. And so I've just been thinking about it and pondering on it, and I think that a lot of times we can be so black and white with things, because we learn things a certain way, and we're in this box of, this is what I've learned and everything else is wrong. Like, they're all wrong and I am right, and this is what I know, and this is why I know it, and you know. But I think that it limits us to being able to receive and to understand more. I don't have the answers. I don't know, you know, but I do know that last night, as I was really pondering and meditating and thinking about it and everything, that I had an understanding, I had a download, I had something, and it really hit me strongly that Jesus Christ, you know, in the scriptures, it talks about how Jesus Christ is the firstborn son. He is the first and he is the last. He is Alpha and Omega. And there's something to that. Like, and as it was coming to me, I was understanding so much. And I can't even put it into words.
Not supposed to.
Right. And I wanted to journal about it and write, and because in my mind I just saw everything that this girl had shared with me about the Hindu belief, and like they have 7 heavens, and like we believe in, you know, different heavens, and there was just so much about the Hindu belief system and the knowledge that they have about stuff, and then my belief system, and the knowledge I have, as those two were coming together, I was like, oh my gosh, this makes so much sense, and this makes so much sense, and it's all just like, I was like, oh my goodness, I was just given so much more understanding, and just receiving insights for myself to, and it's not, like I said, it's nothing I can even speak or explain to another person, because it's like an internal knowing.
I love that.
I love that. And that is like with personal revelation too. Whenever I was at the camp and this past weekend, and I was sitting up on Prayer Hill just meditating and just being one with nature and just being open to receiving, like he just does. He just brings into our thoughts so much understanding about things, and it's so beautiful. And it's like, I want my life to be like that. I just want to be an open vessel at all times, to just constantly be in a state of being able to receive. And I really believe that we can, as I am recognizing, becoming aware of my behaviors and my patterns that keep me stuck in my mind and in issues, problems, just all the negative stuff, like as I'm ridding myself, or as God is clearing these things from me, it's just opening me up to really living in that state. Like this week, I have just felt really at peace and so good, and I love my day. And it's like I go to sleep at night and I'm like, I just loved that day, and I can't wait to wake up tomorrow. And I wake up and I wake up in the middle of the night having these like dreams that I'm remembering, and I'm processing some stuff in my dreams. And I just wake up and I'm so grateful, and it just feels so good, and I'm like, I get to have another one. Like it's just, I love it.
And they go so fast.
It does.
Like when you're really living in the moment. Yesterday, I got done work at like 3 o'clock, and I got home and I got really into some stuff, and it was all of a sudden 11 o'clock, and I'm like, where did that go? That was 8 hours. Where did that go? But I had done a lot of meditating, where an hour can go by for me now, and it's like, oh my gosh, that was awesome.
Yeah.
And you have to be quiet, and I have to listen. If I'm just constantly input, it's like there's no time for anything to happen. So I have to stop and listen. Something that's really awesome about this guy that made that movie, he was committed to, now he made the movie, and now he wants to make a monument for the black people that were pioneers. And he's like, this has to happen. I'm going to donate all my money that I've made from this movie into making this happen. I'm going to buy some land. I want it done. This is the place, which is in Salt Lake City, Utah, or in that area. And it was 5:52. He was walking through a building in Salt Lake, and he sees this woman, and he's like, that's got to be one of the apostles' wives. And he walks up to her, and he starts talking to her, and she's like, hey, honey, come here. And it was one of the 12 apostles in our church. And he's like, look, I'm doing this. I've done the movie about the history of the Black Saints, blah, blah, blah. And the guy's like, that's great. Can I take a selfie with you? And he took a selfie, and he was like, did I just get blown off? Did he just blow me off? And then like a week later, he runs into another apostle and ends up taking a selfie with him and tells him his story and what he's wanting to do. And both of them were at exactly 5:52. Now, what does that have to do with anything? He goes home, which is in California, and he tells his wife, you can get everything done. I'm going to take the weekend off. And Thursday comes around, and he's praying and meditating, and he gets a feeling, get a ticket, go to Salt Lake City. You have a meeting at 5:52. And he's like, I've already committed. Can I just I'll go Saturday. And he's meditating, and he hears the word sure. He's like, sure. So, I mean, God's not going to make us do anything. We have our free agency. And he said, okay, so you said sure. Let me just make sure that what you're saying. I'm going to stay here, and I'm going to go Saturday, and I'm going to go follow this. Is that okay? And he hears sure. So he goes through his day. The next morning he wakes up. He's got all the kids, and he's like, I have to go. I have to go. I have to go. And he can feel the urgency. He's in his car. He got his wife to come home. He's driving down the highway, booking a flight to Salt Lake from LA. It's like 1 o'clock. He gets to the airport at 1:40, and the flight leaves at 1:40. So he's like, I missed it. I'm just going to go all the way in and show that I did everything I could. He gets in. And they said, oh, the plane's been delayed. He gets in the plane. They close the door right behind him. He flies into Salt Lake. He gets in a cab, and he's driving around. It's 5:38, whatever, 5:48. And he's like, what do I do? It's raining. He gets out, jumps out, runs under a tree, and is standing under the tree. And he's like, what am I doing here? So he starts recording himself. Like, I followed the inspiration to be here. I don't know what to do. And as he's recording himself, he looks over and he sees this guy get out of a car and go stand under a tree. And he's in a suit. He's like, that's so weird. So he walks over to him and he said, look, I don't know. I'm supposed to have a meeting right now, and I don't know what you're doing here. And the guy turns around, and it's an apostle of the church, Elder Gong. And he said, yeah, we had the meeting. He's like, what are you talking about? And he's like, we had the meeting. Everything's good. It's all going to be taken care of. And he's like, you had what meeting? And the leaders of the church had come together and actually put together the whole ceremony to have this monument put up for the black people. I mean, and he's thinking he's going to pay for it all, and he's trying to make this happen, and things just aligned themselves to create it to happen for him. And he goes, and he's still worried, like, are they going to think that I'm making it look like a hateful thing when I give this speech? Because slavery was real. People were treated a certain way. And President Ballard, he was one of the 12 apostles that recently died, he grabs him and he says, take all the time you want and say whatever you want. This is your time. And the guy got up, and you can't make this stuff up.
I can't wait to listen to that podcast.
You cannot make it up. And these things have happened in my life so much that I don't have a hard time believing it. You know, somebody could say, oh, he's making that up. It's just whatever. They're trying to recreate history. It's history. I mean, it's written in the books. It's just history that I didn't know, that we probably kind of steered away from because we don't want to look at it. But what's beautiful is the black people in the church want to look at it because it strengthens their faith to know my enslaved ancestor had such a strong testimony of Jesus Christ that he went all the way across this country and still was not allowed because of the government in this country. Not because of God changes, not because God changes the laws, man changes the laws. So therefore, we have to do certain things to preserve the truth, or they would have killed everybody. I think it's beautiful. I love personal revelation. Really, and like you said, there's some things you can't even put into words. I've had things come into my mind and understanding in these peaceful moments when I was just so distraught about how are things going to work out in my life. And all of a sudden this flood of knowledge just pours in, and it's like, thank you, thank you, thank you. I am at complete peace in a world that's in complete chaos.
Man, something else that happened to me this week was I don't even know how it comes about. I just follow. I just listen and I just follow. But I had the thought about something with genealogy. I was like looking for something for a name. Oh, I know what it was. I learned about the AI stuff on the computer. Like you could type in a name with the AI stuff, and it brings up so much information about people, and it kind of creates stories about people that's not even true. And it's like, that's really interesting. And so I've been stuck, like with genealogy, I've been stuck with my husband's ancestry on like a name. Like I have not been able to find parents. I've just haven't been able to find it. And so I had the thought, I was like, well, let's see what AI has to say about it. And so then it brought me to, like, I have a box that's just full of names and just information. And so I pulled that out and I started searching, and it's just incredible how it happened. I was like searching through a son, because there's so many people out there doing genealogy today, and it's like their ancestors, like someone is an ancestor of like the son, and so all that is done, but they don't know who the parents are. So if you have like names and dates, a lot of times you could just find something. But anyhow, so I was able to find the parents of who I have been searching for absolute like years and years and years. Not consistently. I mean, I haven't looked for quite a while, but I was just so excited that, oh my gosh, I found the mother and the father, and like so much has already been done, and I was just so amazed. And it's just following that spirit, just following those little inspirations that we get to just do something, to try something, I love it. I mean, I could just tell story after story.
That's
after
what
story.
I was gonna say. We could do this for hours and share all the inspiration experiences we've had.
I know, and it's amazing.
The only way to do it is to follow that voice, whatever you want to call it, whatever you want to call that feeling. It is real.
It is.
And by following it, you're showing that you're willing to follow your higher power. And when you do that, it's like, okay, well, I'm going to go ahead and give a little more inspiration and see if this human being will follow that inspiration. Because free will's beautiful. So as we follow inspiration, as we seek and want to know what our higher power's will is, we're given more enlightenment and given more. And it's like the more we follow our feelings and do what we're being inspired to do, the more we're given. And it's like it just compounds, just like compound interest. You get more, and so careful.
I know, and the awesome thing too is whenever like you really start listening and you start doing, it starts like he uses you to bless other people's lives. I mean, we have thoughts to reach out to people or to say something to someone or stop by their house, bring them something. I mean, it's just so amazing how we have. Like yesterday, I just had the thought to make a comment to this lady that she was just so beautiful, and I did, and she was taken back. She was just like, you have no idea how much I needed to hear that today. You know, I was like, oh, I'm so glad I listened to that voice that told me to speak, you know, because I mean, so many times we're just in our own head and in our own lives and in our own errands and what we're doing, and we really miss out on those opportunities to lift others and to bring joy to people's hearts and love to them and to just help them to feel better. And that's one thing, is just as we open ourselves and we ask to be a vessel for him, and we want that, he does. Like, he just uses us. He uses us to be able to help people around us.
Yeah, I've been the last few days, I've really taken a lot of time to myself and really been allowing, because I've been learning a whole lot in the last few weeks. Like, I've just been in overdrive about a number of different things. Just been really, really intake, and I've just like had to stop. And the last few days I've been just like exhausted because I'm like downloading it. I am now like, I've put all this stuff in me, and now it's like, yes, I'm processing all this stuff. And it's taken a lot of, like I said yesterday, it was 8 hours disappeared, and I didn't do anything. Like, I wasn't filling my mind with new stuff. I was really 8 hours of, there were a couple times I dozed off, but I was not asleep. I mean, you can say I was asleep, but I was there. I mean, it was 8 hours gone where I needed it. I needed it to really internalize and to feel some things. And it's just, there's only so much we can take in without taking the time to actually embrace it and feel it and to understand what it is that's going on. And to revelation doesn't come while I'm busying myself and just learning. The revelation comes when I stop and I listen. And that's kind of where I've been the last 3 days. And it's been necessary. And in the past, I would have been so hard on myself. Like, what are you doing? That thought in my head, you're not up working nonstop and being productive. No, I've been so productive, but I haven't been productive in the eyes of man. So it does. Yeah, it takes time.
And it is so important, especially like when we read books and listen to podcasts, like you just said. I mean, I see it for myself as well, that like we have to take those things out of all that information we're getting and figure out which ones do we want to incorporate into our lives to help us to change, to be better for ourselves. Because, I mean, we can listen to a lot of great stuff, but continue being exactly who and how we are. And it's just like it comes in one ear and goes out the other. And it's just like great information. But it's like, it's that knowledge becoming wisdom within ourselves and our experience with it. That's where true growth and change and where that revelation really makes a difference for us is whenever we internalize it and make it part of us and makes us be different.
And we become a new creature. Yeah. We reincarnate.
Yeah. And we need that time. We do. We just need the time. And I can hear, we are in a place in life where I don't have small children. And you have a lot of time by yourself. So it's like we do have more time, I guess, than a lot of people. Yet, at the same time, we all have the same amount of time. And it's, where are you placing your time? Where are you placing your intention? And, I just see so many people spending so much time just doing really great things, but just it's too much. It's like kids are in so many sports, so many activities, and just constantly busy, and the parents are constantly working, and it's so much. And those things are beautiful and great, but when it's too much, it leaves us like empty and depleted and thirsting for so much more. And we think, well, if I do more, then maybe I'll feel better. But it's really in the doing less. It's in doing less that we are able to do more. That's so amazing.
Yeah. So many things just go away. Yeah. So many things in life just go away whenever we take care of ourselves. The depression, the anxiety, all the doubt, self-doubt, the body image garbage and everything. I mean, it just goes away. And am I going to deal with it again? Yeah, probably. There will be a season, but I don't think I'll ever deal with some things. It's just, man, it's such a journey.
Yeah, it is. And I love it.
I'm not even... To look at our videos, how far am I from where I've been? It's been an eternity. I mean, today is just so different than 2023. I mean, it's just like I can't compare it to anything. I just am who I am. And take that for whatever you want, but I am. And it's great. And I have so much progress to make still, but I am so happy with what I've been given, and the inspiration, and the feelings, and just the knowledge. I just love it. I've wasted. I haven't wasted any time. My timeline has just been different. So to say I'm trying to catch up or whatever, it's not what I'm doing. I'm just at peace.
Just here, now, present.
Yeah. I love it.
Yeah, me too.
Life is good. Thank you.
Bye, y'all.